sometimes it's like, gee, like if somebody complains that something's bad in Wikipedia, whoever they are, don't care who they are, could be you, could be the government, could be the Pope, I don't care who they are. It's like, oh, okay, well, our responsibility as Wikipedians is to go, oh, hold on, let's check, right? Is that right or wrong? Is there something that we've got wrong in Wikipedia? Not because you're threatening to block us, but because we want Wikipedia to be correct. So we do have these dialogues with people. And, a big part of like what was going on with, you might call it pressure on social media companies or dialogue with, depending on, as we talked earlier, grapple with the language, depending on what your view is. In our case, it was really just about, oh, okay, right. They want to have a dialogue about COVID information, misinformation. We're this enormous source of information, which the world depends on. We're going to have that conversation, right? We're happy to say, here's, if they say, how do you know that Wikipedia is not going to be pushing some crazy anti-vax narrative? First, I think it's somewhat inappropriate for a government to be asking pointed questions in a way that implies possible penalties. I'm not sure that ever happened because we would just go, I don't know, the Chinese blocked us and so it goes, right? We're not going to cave into any kind of government pressure, but whatever the appropriateness of what they were doing, I think there is a role for government in just saying, let's understand the information ecosystem. Let's think about the problem of misinformation, disinformation in society, particularly around election security, all these kinds of things. So, I think it would be irresponsible of us to get a call from a government agency and say, yeah, why don't you just fuck off? You're the government. But it would also be irresponsible to go, oh dear, government agent's not happy. Let's fix Wikipedia so the FBI loves us.
So when you say you want to have discussions with the Chinese government or with organizations like CDC and WHO, it's to thoroughly understand what the mainstream narrative is so that it can be properly represented but not drive what the articles are.
Well, it's actually important to say, like, whatever the Wikimedia Foundation thinks has no impact on what's in Wikipedia. Right. So it's more about saying to them, right, we understand you're the World Health Organization or you're whoever, and part of your job is to sort of public health is about communications. You want to understand the world. So it's more about, oh, well, let's explain how Wikipedia works.
So it's more about explaining how Wikipedia works and like, hey, it's the volunteers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a battle of ideas, and here's how the sources are used.
Yeah, exactly.
What a legitimate source is and what not a legitimate source is.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose there's some battle about what is a legitimate source. There could be statements made that CDC. There's government organizations in general have sold themselves to be the place where you go for expertise. And some of that has been, to a small degree, raised in question over the response to the pandemic.
Well, I think in many cases, and this goes back to my topic of trust. So there were definitely cases of public officials, public organizations, where I felt like they lost the trust of the public because they didn't trust the public.
Yeah.
And so the idea is like, we really need people to take this seriously and take actions. Therefore, we're going to put out some overblown claims because it's going to scare people into behaving correctly. You know what? That might work for a little while, but it doesn't work in the long run because suddenly people go from a default stance of like the Center for Disease Control, very well respected scientific organization, sort of, I don't know, they've got vault in Atlanta with the last vial of smallpox or whatever it is that people think about them. And to go, oh, right, these are scientists we should actually take seriously and listen to, and they're not politicized, and they're, it's like, okay. And if you put out statements, and I don't know if the CDC did, but World Health Organization, whoever, that are provably false, and also provably you kind of knew they were false, but you did it to scare people because you wanted them to do the right thing. It's like, no, you know what? That's not going to work in the long run. Like, you're going to lose people. And now you've got a bigger problem, which is a lack of trust in science, a lack of trust in authorities, who are, by and large, they're like quite boring government bureaucrat scientists who just are trying to help the world.